pause recording? No. Now it begins. So we are in the after-show Blab of Crisis and Possibilities with Elza Maalouf and Dawlabani. And there was also Neri from Israel. And there was also Lawrence and Scott a little bit in the background. And we hope that we can now talk a little bit about that, because they have given us so much information about what is going on in the Middle East. So I was a little bit overwhelmed, I need to say.
Well, they went into a lot of things that we don't usually get to talk about. And, of course, there's a lot of Middle Eastern history, a lot of the factions, leaders' names, and so forth that most people don't know much about. So it was a very rich, but it certainly described the Shia versus Sunni problems in the Middle East. The Shia under the leadership, basically, of Iran, and they're the relatively progressive, in a sense, form of Islam. The Sunni are the more conservative, the ones who, don't let women drive cars, blah blah blah. But there's it's a huge power, especially Saudi Arabia, and they're competing, and the West is taking sides. And as usual, we pick the more repressive ones on our side.
Before we go into the topic, can you tell a little bird?
Okay.
Tell a little bird.
Tell a little bird. Somebody came in just now.
Tell a little bird.
Tell a little bird. Tell a little bird.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, Scott. I sent out a lot of tweets with your wonderful boat.
Oh, great!
There's a picture. I really love that. It's also attracting people. So I got quite a bit of shares in consequence. So continue to create these great things. Okay.
All right.
Okay. And Scott, I was hoping we'd get time for you to have one more comment or question at the end of the show, but time ran away from us.
Well, it was just so jam-packed, wasn't it? The whole, all the different players involved. It's quite the chess game over there. And, it would really be cool to have somebody who is on the ground over there be on the show and talk a little bit about what that's like. Yeah. Because there's the whole contact of what's it really like. I don't think we get a really good view of what it's really like.
We get a very superficial view.
We get, but Elza has published quite a bit of papers of her work she is doing there, and they are talking. It fell once the word indigenous intelligence or something.
Indigenous intelligence.
They are working with creating what side at the end say educating young people who are already at a higher level. Educate them to take over leadership, because the idea is, or the insight is, that from outside educate somebody. I mean, we Germans don't want to be educated by you Americans. Hey,
too bad. It happened already. Sorry.
Or the other way around.
We won the war. We did what we could. You're on your own now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the same thing there. I mean, if the West tells them what they have to do, even if it's right, we know that from psychology we shut down. We don't want to be told.
Yeah. And of course, Elza in her work has to be very quiet, very discreet, very behind the scenes, so that it seems to be emerging organically where they are. It's really there really are people in the Middle East who want good lives for their children. They're not holding the keys to the old house in Jerusalem and handing it down to the grandchildren to go back and reclaim the house.
Yeah. There's Melanie in the chat, and she says she wants to be in the chat, and she says she catches a lot of current things from Vice News. I don't know what that is.
Vice News.
I've never heard of it either.
I don't know Vice.
Can you tell us what that is, Melanie? And then it was a fabulous HOA. Yes, I thought so too. Thank you. I studied the Middle East daily. Oh, good.
Yeah. Well, come on in, Melanie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she said she stays in the, I said it today, and before, in the chat room.
No.
And Christina is here, and Kate is here.
Oh, good.
Oh, good.
Yeah, this is nice. Oh, so I was actually also interested in how all over the board Europe is in response to this refugee crisis. That each country in Europe is really acting in old-fashioned, disunited, what's good for us, not what's good for Europe, let alone what's good for the world. Mm-hmm. So this green veneer seems to be really crumbling throughout Europe, and it's very frightening in some ways to see how fragile this fiction of the EU, with its headquarters in Brussels and 24 flags flying out in front in unison.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here's Kate in the audience. Kate, would you like to come in? You were in Czech Republic not long ago, and you told us a little bit about how the refugee situation is, as far as I remember. Mm-hmm. No?
She did, yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you want to jump in and tell us a little bit, it would be really appreciated, because we didn't have anybody from Europe, let's say, from Italy, us, but not from,
you.
Yeah, but I'm not, excuse me, I'm not living there. I don't really know. I know from other people in Austria and how it looks like and how it feels like, but not in first person experience. So,
yes.
And in the meantime, Lawrence, to you.
Yeah.
Well, in response to Mark's comment of dismay about the veneer of green and the disunity below, it's been pointed out that people revert to earlier stages or levels of maturity when under stress, because it's more familiar, it has more parts, it's more accessible. A baby green doesn't have the fortitude that existed at a mature amber or blue or orange. People will retreat to the one where they feel more secure. So I don't think it's as cataclysmic as it might appear. It's just that the green is not well established. It's not mature.
Yeah. And the events are demonstrating that. But it will take some reorganization, and it will be perhaps the wild card, like Saeed mentioned, the Katrina disaster was, to reorganize and leave behind some old, in this case, old EU ideas of what a unified Europe really means. And get something that's more organic and from the ground up. Yeah. So that would be a good move. Yeah. Right now, it's a pretend unity from the top down, and it's besides the euro, there isn't much in common.
I think you have to give some food to this dog, otherwise it doesn't allow us to speak. Because
can I eat too?
You can eat too.
I'll be back.
Doggy wants some attention. So we were sitting now here about 2 hours trying to get the hangout started and all these things. So we didn't give him any attention. So Kate doesn't want to come in, but she says she writes the comments, and she says, wait a minute. Oh God, these comments, they are running ahead, and I don't even know how to go up and down here. Can you catch them? Because
she says all of her friends are very angry with the media and how they mislead and never give a balanced picture. And they're angry about the fact that only a few of the refugees are the genuine ones, and the rest are economical migrants with aggressive behavior.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was Ben, you wanted to come in. I wasn't in time. If you want to try again,
Hey, okay.
Yeah, you say I can scroll. I don't know. I'm on the Chromebook, and it somehow eats away the sidebars. So I don't know. With the mouse, I can. Yeah. Okay. Learning everywhere. Learning. So I'm sorry, I have missed the chance to let a person in. Yeah, is it really that there are only a few of the refugees genuine? When we hear what they have said, that this Assad is bombing their own people, and that most of these people run away from him, and not necessarily from ISIS, isn't there some motivation to go away? I mean, when we hear that in Lebanon, which has 4 million inhabitants, and that they have taken 2 million of refugees, I mean, there must be a reason why to go away. Then he is Ben Tate. You wanted to come in now. You have written it. Let me see. Oops. We should care about migrants. They are trying to take over our world. As you can see,
we shouldn't care.
We shouldn't care about. As you can see, this is why the war is starting, because they are trying to come here. I mean, migration has been as long as the world exists. And we Americans were migrants too, and the Germans.
I'm not a migrant. I'm an indigenous intelligence.
Yes, you are, Mark. Indigenous.
So it's not a new phenomenon, and that people flee from wars is also not a new phenomenon. And that they need shelter, and we had not so long ago so many people killed because they couldn't make it to get out of Germany or similar places which were adopting the German regime. So I think we should accept migrants, because migrants maybe not, but refugees.
All right, there's a difference.
And make a difference between these things and give them temporary, very clear, what I tried to say before in the show, very clear boundaries, what they are coming for. And then if they want to stay, then they really have to demonstrate, like it is in America, that they know the language. It should be.
Come.
I heard that in America, to become American, you need to make a long exam of I don't know what, everything. So
more than a native needs to know. Yes.
Yeah, and in Germany, as far as I know, then when you live there for more than 5 years legally, then sort of you can ask the citizenship. And these things I would a little bit, doubt. If we really should do that, to discourage people who want to, take over, as you said, Ben, and be very aware what they are doing, and use the blue forces, as we said in the show, to control them. Not like it begins now in Berlin, that there are some quarters of the city like Chicago where no police goes in. This is absolutely not the way.
This is ridiculous.
That is my idea, my personal idea. Anyway, okay, Lawrence, you were. It was your, and I jumped into it.
Oh, I'm still listening.
But she's not still talking, so you don't have to listen anymore.
Right. It comes down to the topic I raised with Saeed. How do you entice people to change who don't particularly want to change? The problem with all these migrations is what they were saying about the red meme and unhealthy blue predominating. These people are committed to their worldview. Not just that they live it, but they're committed to it. Again, how do you go outside? I say it this way: how do you go outside of the usual evolutionary process, which involves interactions of all kinds, to provoke a shift? How do you set an environment that will make people want to change? And I don't think that imposing blue structures is optimal. It may be provisional. It may be pragmatically the best they can think of. Mm-hmm. But people in blue are really committed to their blueness.
Yeah, but the need for a white, and I think many people don't know what we are talking about when they are not inside of the spiral dynamics levels of development.
Okay. So
and before we explain this a little bit, I wanted to go to the comments again. First, Kate said they don't tell the truth.
Who's they?
Yeah, let me see how that was. And the rest are economical migrants with aggressive behavior. And then they said they don't tell the truth. Okay. Then Melanie was saying there is a movement going on where a lot of Jewish Americans are physically moving back to Jerusalem. I'm not Jewish, but
I'm not Jewish.
Not Jewish, but I see this happening through Periscope and Mercat streams. So this is interesting. Mm-hmm. And then Ben, because if you can see in the United Kingdom, because our population has gone down. I don't exactly know what he means. And then he says, and our people has moved to Germany or Dubai and United States. And he begins, continues somewhere down. I'm running a program called EDL. I don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. And this is the thing about child abuse and stuff. As these migrants I have seen it myself, there has been many abused children, and you should see that. This is a question what abuse is. Mm-hmm. You know, in different levels of development, they have different ideas about what abuse is. For instance, we find child abuse when children have to work any work now in our green society, that even the farmers cannot, their children help them anymore because it's considered child abuse. This is not child abuse. But I mean, other things for sure, when they are in 12 hours a day as slaves, this for sure is child abuse. Yeah. But and you say, I hope you take my side about this. I don't really know what, we don't take sides. We try to see things from as many perspectives and try to find out what is the most likely or the most
helpful
perspective on the things, without ignoring that there are problems, but seeing it from a, let's say, an higher perspective in many ways. Mm-hmm. And I would say, Lawrence, can you explain a little bit about these levels of development, and then we come back to you, Ben.
Okay. So starting with what we've spoken of in this blab, not what was in the Hangout. I made reference to red. The red is a color that symbolizes a certain way of operating life and in seeing life. And people who are in the red zone look at things in terms of power and domination. And generally, might makes right. The person who's in the position of power gets to set the rules, or is in the unhealthy orange meme, which I'll talk about momentarily. The saying is, there's a golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. Okay? So that's the red mentality. And its healthy form, you can see that in the military, where you have the values of attention, respect, follow through, accountability. These are foundational for a healthy power structure. Unhealthy power structure has none of that. They just run roughshod over anybody and everybody they please. And we see that then in the Middle Eastern cultures as individuals who don't take into account at all the situation that others are in. They're only interested in what they want and what they feel they need, and they will dominate and overpower anybody who gets in their way. Next was made reference to the blue. Blue is a code color for people who place the common rules such as ethics and morality or even just in the secular terms, what works for their particular group. And they expect everybody in that group to conform to those rules, and the punishment that they might impose in a healthy blue would be ostracism, which is to say the exclusion of the individual from the mainstream of social interaction of that culture. If they start going to things like beheadings, that's more the red form of enforcement. In orange is beyond merely the local group of which a person may be a member, and it looks at the assortment of all the different groups and principles that apply to everyone. So the notion of human rights comes out of the orange mentality, and it applies, or is supposed to apply, to all of the subgroups of that culture. If there happen to be blue subgroups within an orange culture, generally those individuals in the blue groups maintain their own standards of behavior. But in dealing with the larger culture, with people who are outside of their particular group, there are rules that apply and are generally accepted for practical reasons, as long as they don't conflict with the blue rules. If they directly conflict, people who are in a blue mentality will place their blue values first. And those who are primarily in an orange state, which is the state of inclusion of the different subcultures, they will tend to expect everybody to adhere to the orange values. And again, orange values are like the Bill of Rights in the American system, or the what did Charlemagne? Oh, the Magna Carta. Okay,
Magna Carta.
Okay, so that was intended to include and be more than the local groups of the culture. And then the last one that was mentioned was green. And the green are the multicultural types who want everybody to feel included, and they don't accept anyone is better than anyone else, except, of course, themselves for their moral inclusiveness. But they mean nobody to be hurt. They want nobody to be marginalized. Everybody's supposed to be included, but they also expect everybody to adhere to their values. They're more concerned with feelings than with actions. Otherwise, orange sounds very much like green, but orange is orange primarily because of external conduct, whereas green looks at the feelings of the people involved and then seeks to shape external conduct to protect the feelings of the people who are involved. So that's, as I see it, the major difference between orange and green. Except for one thing, that green tends to want to place all forms of knowledge on equal footing, which tends to render none of them powerful enough to get anything done. Green is ineffectual. Where you see people getting done who are claiming to be or thought of being green, it's because they are implementing orange values, that some knowledge is better, is more effective, more functional than others. Whereas green tends to undermine all of that. The technical term used by some is deconstruct, namely take apart the forcefulness of any other position. So orange, on the other hand, maintains that there is better knowledge and right knowledge, better rules and right rules. Green says, oh no, in theory, everybody's rules are as good as everyone else's, basically, again, to preserve feelings. But it's not real good at getting anything done in itself. So that's my overview of those colors and stages.
Okay.
And that's the state of the EU right now, officially.
I have a technical question. I don't know. I don't see the fourth seat open. I tried to admit a person before, and then it sort of disappeared. Can you see it open still, or is it all blank?
It used to say open. Now it's just blank as you see it.
Yeah. This is strange. So I cannot admit anybody anymore because something has happened, which I don't know. But there is Ben, and he has a blue picture. And I think a little bit is what you talked about blue, what he's saying here. He says, migrants shouldn't be here. I mean, I'm not racist. It shouldn't be like that anyway. If this stops, the migrants coming to Germany, United Kingdom, and USA, we would have a life. I mean, it's bad. I see there really a concentration of the own group, of your own people, and you don't consider other people's needs or problems. You want to keep your own life as it always has been. And this is a characteristic of what Lawrence described of the blue stage of development. Am I right, Scott and Lawrence?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, Lawrence was talking about the different levels of development and how they're applied in the whole spiral dynamics and integral theory. So in one of the things that Saeed and Elza were talking about today was building blue, and Lawrence had a perspective on that I'm not sure he finished, but I just wanted to say that because it sounded to me like there were so many egocentric leaders in the Middle East, that the sexy, charismatic leader, that it's difficult to get any kind of growth, and I'm thinking, well, maybe if you had a leader that was more developed and was charismatic still, or something like this, I don't know, but those are just some. I thought we'd talk a little bit more about that.
I think what Elza does in her work is exactly that, to help people to develop their potential as leaders and become those leaders then. But obviously at the moment doesn't seem to be anybody who would be able to take over leadership and be the wise leader, because who is taking over in this chaos must be really, really good.
Well, she works primarily with Palestinians. And so it's sort of like a small in-group of people that are busy working away within the Palestinian society, not in Hamas, not in Gaza. I don't mean Hamas. Who are the people in Gaza that are in charge? Anyway, they don't work in Gaza. No, it is Hamas. Hezbollah is in Lebanon.
Right.
Hamas is not amenable to this sort of work now. But in the West Bank, and I'm trying to think of the major city in the West Bank, there's actually a cadre of really quite progressive thinkers, progressive by their terms, that is moving to a healthy, secular blue, toward institutions that function, toward getting a cement factory built where people have to go to work every day. It seems very unattractive to us, but it's
and schools,
build
schools and send your children there,
where they don't learn just
not just the Quran, but something else too. I think this is the real challenge to realize that, instead of going in big ideas, but really work on the ground and do that for the main population.
Very unsexy.
Very unsexy. There is Melanie who says Putin wants to have access to the port cities of Syria.
That's true. Well, the port cities of Syria are still under Assad's control. I remember seeing just a month ago pictures of people still having summer holidays on the beach in Latakia. And they're speeding around in little individual speed boats and, doing the usual summer fun things. That's the life of the minority, and they're trying to hang on to that, of course.
Yeah.
And Putin is not bombing them.
Tell me more. Tell me more about what Putin is doing there, because I'd like to just hear.
She said, yes, Putin and Assad are arm in arm.
Yeah, Putin and Assad are arm in arm is really what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he is bombing from sea and from air non-ISIS rebels, basically the Sunnis who are opposing Assad, okay? Who are the ones we, in a couple of years ago, would have thought was the liberal opposition to Assad. Well, I don't know how liberal they are, but they are definitely the targets of Putin as he builds his ties with Assad.
And that's like, and the whole idea behind that is kind of the return to the Cold War type.
They said that.
What do you think about that, Mark?
Well, I think one thing we forget about the Cold War, it was the Americans and the Russians. Despite capitalism, despite communism, it was Americans and Russians. And the Russians are still Russians, you know?
And the Americans are still Americans.
Oh, no. We were over that. We've got over that.
No, I'm sorry, Heidi. The Americans are no longer Americans.
Uh-huh.
I mean, look at them. My God, look at the news now. Look at the 60s, the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this nation is way out of balance, far worse than before right now.
Well, we have left our blue behind. That's for sure.
That's the problem.
You have quite a bit when I see you.
Well, healthy blue is very, very good, especially for police forces and things like that. You bet.
And that's better when they are healthy and not red in the police.
Yes,
Yeah.
no red police.
There is Melanie saying Putin is exercising big guns, lucky, to take interest away from Crimea too.
Well, he's got the Crimea. Let's face it. You know, that's done. Lucky.
How come the first part of the word Crimea is crime?
Part is me.
We have to do something with our doggy. I'm
okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, Lawrence, and give your perspective on this.
Well, I said the part about crime. What it is that ties in with Mark said about blue having receded. The problem is when a developing world stage, people in a stage that is developing, abandon the virtues of the previous stages. We certainly need red. We need the ability to exercise force well regulated at proper moments. We need rules. They're good guidelines for practice, for behavior. But we, again, don't want to be limited to either of those, right? We want to have those capacities, but without being dominated by them.
Yeah.
And orange, the same thing. Orange has abandoned blue in the USA, where money and the profit motive are an excuse for any kind of behavior, it would seem.
Mm-hmm.
So they are like adolescents throwing off the rules of the elders in order to be fully self-indulgent and irresponsible.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you get people who are that way to resume the virtues of the earlier stages?
Yeah.
That's the problem. The other side of it is that red has infected the later meme developments. It's infected. So blue is infected by red when it becomes tyrannical.
Mm-hmm.
Orange becomes infected by red when the profit motive is an excuse for anything. Green is infected by red when the self-righteousness invalidates any kind of intelligence. The problem, it seems to me, is that red has infected the later stages.
Right.
That's the way I'm seeing it right now.
Right.
Can I go over to the comments a moment? Melanie says Putin thinks we need to see the Russian war power. And Kate, some of her friends, that's higher. This with the comments on this platform is a little bit tricky. Some of my friends do think that Putin is a good guy. And she says, these friends are highly educated and well developed. What do you think? And she says again that Putin is trying to keep the world in balance. It's what they think.
Everybody's trying to keep the world in balance according to their sense of balance.
Yeah, I saw Putin on YouTube, a YouTube video recently where he was talking to the UN, which is another whole subject altogether. The UN in all of this, but Putin being kind of trying to seem as though he was being very truthful, and the United States and Obama plan being kind of more deceit in the background. But Putin was kind of addressing the UN and kind of like, what are you guys really doing, kind of a sense, and it's hard to think about what his motives really are, being a former KGB,
Well, he's cunning and he's red, and he can put on a veneer. He can speak in English. He's an educated man, and then he has publicity pictures of himself bare-chested carrying rifles. Marching through the woods. And this is very definitely red behavior.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about what Kate said, that these people are well educated and think that Putin is good. I don't know who Putin is, but what he is. Well, but we can often, when we are well educated, we cannot see often these levels of development. Yeah. We cannot make a discernment. We only see some of the actions and they seem to be good, and some others seem to be, and then we are a little bit confused and think, oh, we believe that is good, you know, instead of having a system, evaluation system to see where is the center of gravity of this person. And Mark is convinced that he's right. I don't know this person enough, and I'm not interested in
not
politics.
That I'm red, no.
So I cannot say anything about that. But what is your idea? So are you thinking he's red, or would he be orange? Because what it is, red and orange, for instance, is an ego drive in some way, an individualistic drive to go ahead. And this he seems to have.
Yeah, that's
anyway,
right.
no,
Mm-hmm.
and not communal and not peacemaking in the sense of coming together and creating a community. This doesn't seem in his idea. No. So for me, blue in some way as his center of gravity is excluded. So does he want to really develop his country? This would be my idea, orange
or does
center.
Well, he's put all the oligarchs in prison.
Does he want the power alone him? So this is the question here.
He's got it.
Mm-hmm. She says the mainstream in Czech hates Putin because of what was in the
because of 1968.
Yeah.
Well, it's history, of course.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They don't want any part of Russia. Thank you.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And Melody says Anderson Cooper
Ghazni government power. I'm not sure what.
Typos. Has no government power.
Has no
power. So it does not compare to Putin.
Government power is not what people think it is. First, it's heavily mediated by the mass communications media.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you control public opinion, and that in turn makes room for people in government to do what they please if the people are rendered silly by what's put across in the mass media. So Anderson Cooper is not a member of the government, although he worked for the CIA, but he does.
He's a journalist.
He is in a position to influence the course of events when he's on camera and, say, running a presidential debate.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the same, certainly, but it's they both have influence, just different sorts.
Yeah.
Look at Edward Snowden. There's another one.
Yeah.
They say he has no government power,
I was
but guess
just thinking
what?
about that. Yeah.
He embarrassed the pants off of the government. I think that's highly useful.
Mm-hmm. Oh, exactly. I quite support what he's done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Carter, former president, said the same thing. He said it's difficult to hear, but what he spoke was the truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's the people, and in the American government, they confuse endangerment with embarrassment. What Snowden did was embarrass a lot of people. No one has been harmed by what he has done. So
it's true.
Whether or not you're in government doesn't bear upon whether you have influence on government necessarily.
Yeah. There is Kate saying, I'm working to clean my perception with the gold key release, and hopefully I will become wiser to understand what's going on in the world. This is a good possibility. And Kate, please do some promotion for us. And for the people who don't know, Lawrence is starting a course in the gold key release, which is very useful. And Kate has written some wonderful testimonials, and she has also already tried it out with her students in Czech Republic.
She's using it with her students?
Yeah.
Cool.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
And there is the course going on. You can subscribe under http
yes
:// bit.ly/gold course, gold with a capital G, gold course together, and then 0, what do we have? Unterschied. 011.
Which page? 11 is the sign up page.
Okay.
I'm going to put this into the chat window just because Heidi has made a point of mentioning it. I'll put the link in. And what she just alluded to, there are two. One is a description of the course and its purpose, and the other is a sign up for the course.
Anyway, when you have found Lawrence and his pages, you can apply. I mean, get in contact.
Get in contact. Yes, indeed. All right. I don't know. Are we winding down?
I think I'm a little bit tired now.
Yeah.
You've been at it for a while.
I've been sitting up for a long time.
And the doggy, he really doesn't like us to be so long on camera. It's almost 3 hours that we are sitting here.
Yeah.
The butt is squeezed. So I would say we wind it down, and we see next week in the normal, lucky Wisdom Factory Blab session, and we might also go back sometime to Hangouts, to not get dishabituated how to use them.
Forget how to do it.
Yeah. So we will think about it. Okay. I thank you very much, everybody who came in. And
thank you.
And thanks that you watched the show, Melanie and Kate and some other people. They were quite a good affluence.
Yeah, there's lots of comments. And thanks, Scott and Lawrence, for your
support.
Support, contributions, smarts.
As I thank you also.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
It's lunchtime.
It's Shana time to eat. What does that mean?
Be well, prosper. What was it anyway?
That's pretty exactly what it means. Be well and prosper.
Yeah.
Okay, we will
the
try.
Middle Eastern version of the wording, but it basically comes down to be well and prosper.
Look at those fingers. Look at those fingers.
We can do that by